Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Instant Replay. I'm your host, Dave Garner. We thank you for joining us right here live on FYNTV.com. As always, we appreciate you guys being with us. This is the only live hour of online sports talk in North Georgia each and every week right here on FYNTV.com. We do want to remind folks, again, anytime you have any information you'd like to share with us, please feel free to do that. You can always email us at teamfynsports@fetchernews.com, and you can also check us out on social media. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you have the opportunity to see full-length features. A lot of times on this program, you'll see bits and pieces of things, but if you want to see it in its entirety, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, YouTube, we're on the air each and every week, and I'm a little tongue-twisted this morning. We had the Berry football banquet. It was last night over in Rome, and it was great to see those guys. The three-time SAA conference champion Berry Vikings had a lot of fun there. Behind the glass with us this morning, Josh on the controls and Luther Kinsey as well. Luther's going to be out here with me for segments 2 and 3 today. But guys, how you doing this morning?
Doing wonderful. How about you?
Doing pretty good. How about that national? The last time, we were on the air, it was right before the national championship kicked off, and our very own BKP made a bold prediction. And lo and behold, man, he was right. Clemson ends up beating Alabama for the national championship. And, Luther and you and I were talking about possibly being able to get Trevor Lawrence on the program. We're close. We're close. Maybe we'll be able to get him on once things calm down in the next couple weeks. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm going to do everything I can. I've met Trevor back early in his high school career through some alumni football that his quarterback's coach, Mike Bell, was the owner of, and I was head of officials for him. So it gave me an opportunity to meet a lot of people, from different schools, and Trevor Lawrence was one. Young man's been a beast since day one. And as BKP said right before the show, as y'all were talking, it's not that Clemson's numbers outdid Alabama's numbers. He just knew and saw something in Trevor Lawrence that was just really good and the best, and he had no doubts in him and what he could do, and it played out that way. So BKP was spot on in his prediction, as you said, and I think we better start listening to him some. He's been right several times about some other games as well. So
when it comes to politics and things like that, we all know BKP has his opinions, but when it comes to sports, because of how plugged in he is to other things going on in the community, they don't always put a lot of stock into what he thinks when it comes to sports. But the man does know a little something about sports, particularly baseball. But he pegged the national championship right. Now, I don't think anyone saw the result coming the way it did. The blowout win basically by the Tigers. And we're not going to talk a lot about it because obviously that's not the focus of this show. But, man, just an impressive performance by Trevor Lawrence. 20 of 33 for 347. Just an unbelievable night for the Cartersville native. And anytime we have the opportunity to promote our local guys, even though we don't necessarily cover Bartow County close enough, we all know who Trevor Lawrence is here in the local area. So it's great to see, some of our local guys stepping up and playing big in a big ball game. As always, Team FYN Sports highlighting and promoting student athletes in a positive way, and we're going to do that here today. Of course, this is Monday. If you're watching live, this is Monday, January the 14th. The show also airs Tuesday through Thursday, so if you're watching on one of those days, you're watching an encore repeat performance of the program. But as always, we are glad to have you, and we're going to talk a lot about high school wrestling and basketball. This is a championship edition of the Instant Replay, and we're going to talk about why that is in just a few moments in our second segment, but it has to do with wrestling. I'll give you that. A little hint there as Luther joins me out here in the studio. But first, let's talk about some coaching news. It does look like Gilmer Touchdown Club held their Meet the Coach event last week with the new Gilmer High School football coach, Kevin Saunders. About 30 parents showed up in the high school cafeteria to meet and greet the coach. Former and future Bobcats Bobcats were in attendance, and I know Luther, obviously this was a big story that broke a couple weeks ago with all the coaching changes, our changing of the guard segment that we like to have here. So basically this is sort of a changing of the guard segment, if you will. But the coach getting set, folks able to meet him the other night, and he talked about what's expected from his players, a lot of the expectations going in, making that very clear, and also laying out the expectations for the parents as well. So it was a very positive reception for Coach Kevin Saunders, who we look forward to working with down the road.
Yeah, he did lay out a lot. Of course, it's hard to do in approximately an hour. You want to give time for the parents to ask questions and actually come up and talk to him and meet him and shake his hand and things of that nature as well. The highlight I got out of it was, not only is he there to coach football, he's there to make these athletes into young men.
Exactly.
He stated that, all the players will have his personal cell phone number. If they're going to miss practice, he don't want to hear from the parents. He wants to hear from those young men.
Right.
And, they're going to perform well in school. He expects that. Grades are first. And then he went on to also lay out that, he didn't care who the parents were or what the athletes played last year. If a freshman can go out there and beat a senior and head-to-head for that position, that freshman's going to be playing. He will put the best players on the field.
Right.
One interesting change, of course, I've heard it, around town and things like that from fans that it's time for a change in uniforms and things like that. Well, Coach Saunders is contracted with Adidas. And not only of course, the performance of that equipment and gears and things like that, it's going to be in the safety of it. It's going to be just as good as any other brand out there. But because he's contracted with them, he's able to save the Gilmer football program some money going to Adidas. But he mentioned that several people's looked at 2 or 3 jersey options, so they will be changing jerseys this year. Don't know the style of those. As soon as they come out, I'll have them, bring them up on the show so everyone can see them. But he just laid it out there. He laid it out there. He wants to turn them young men. He's going to play freshmen and JV together, freshmen and sophomores together on JV. That way they can get out there and be more prepared for the varsity schedule if he needs to bring them up to play for whatever reason during the season.
Right.
4 home games this year. He discussed the schedule a little bit. Last year they had 6 home games.
Right.
Of course, being the alternate year, they're going to have 4.
Yeah,
so
the way it works
that's going to put them on.
Yeah.
That's going to put them on the road a lot. But he's ready, prepared. He's got his coaching staff kind of in line. Have not announced who they are yet. Several of them should be starting hopefully at the school in late February and really making their transition. As soon as those names are released, of course, I'll bring them as well to the show. But he's excited. He's excited. The parents were excited. There was a lot of, kind of small smiles and, head shaking in agreement with what he was saying. So I believe everybody's getting on board with him and looking forward to it. It should be a good year.
It'll be a lot of fun. And they said that the equipment, I guess, it was in the process of being updated and ordered and all that stuff, as you said. So it'll be interesting. That kind of seems to be, whenever you have a coaching change, a lot of times they want to put their stamp on the program, and not necessarily through a uniform change. I mean, there's other ways that they do that, but it looks like the uniform could very well be one of those ways that the Bobcat program kind of rebrands itself and kind of starts that transition back.
Right. Well, in my opinion, when you do get a new coach in, it's all about change and looking toward the future. And, I mean, it's a very small thought that may run through their heads. It may not, but changing of the equipment, you're getting new stuff. You've got a new coach, new equipment. You're a new team. You've got freshmen that are coming up into the program that's going to be playing, we're middle school last year. So they're going to be up and getting better. And, and the varsity, of course, is, striving to get better. They've had, some years of not so good luck, but you got to put all that behind you. And personally, my opinion is, hey, new uniforms, let's come out with a new look. Across the board, not just in the uniform, but in your play calling from the coach's standpoint, coaches, whoever he chooses to keep or bring in new ones in that spot. It's a new beginning for Gilmer football, and I believe the community's excited to see what direction it goes in.
Yeah, and it's really a new beginning for a lot of teams in the area. It's hard to believe that Chad Cheatham in Fannin County as a second-year head coach this coming season will be the senior coaches among the Highway 515 Gilmer-Pickens Fannin rivalry, if you will. I know Pickens and Fannin haven't played each other in a while, but Chad Cheatham, a second-year coach, will now be the senior coach amongst those three schools. Obviously, with Gilmer hiring Kevin Saunders and, of course, Coach Nelson taking over for Kevin Parker, or excuse me, for Coach Parker down in Jasper at Pickens. So it'll be interesting. Chris Parker, not Kevin Parker. Coach Chris Parker, but who stays the AD. He's still very much involved with the program, but a lot of coaching changes in our local area. So, I mean, you think about that. Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting, but I think it's gonna be exciting this fall as all of those programs take the field with new or fairly new coaches at the helm. It's gonna be pretty exciting to watch that. Let's go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, we're going to transition into some high school wrestling. It was a championship weekend for the Gilmer Bobcat Wrestlers. All that and much more straight ahead, including a special look at high school basketball. This week we focus on the Pickens Dragons and Dragonettes, plus some other notes from the hardwood coming up as we roll on with this week's edition of the Instant Replay. Stay with us.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and LJ, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN 10 for your special deal today at Circuit World.
We're more than just $5 medium one-topping pizzas, stuffed garlic knots, breadsticks, bone-out wings, pasta, and new Cinnabon mini rolls. We're the $5 lineup with the best sides for your pizza.
$5 each.
Choose 2 or more, $5 each. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Instant Replay. Here now, Luther Kinsey of Team FYN Sports joining us in front of the glass, in front of the camera right now. And we're talking a little bit, obviously, about the national championship game and, of course, the Gilmer football coaching change in that first segment there. Kevin Saunders, of course, named as the head coach, had the meet and greet the other night with Bobcat players and parents. And now we're transitioning into segment 2 today. We've got a little bit of a Gilmer heavy show, if you will, here in the early part. We're going to talk about a lot of our area schools here throughout the next couple segments with wrestling and basketball. But let's start with Gilmer as the Bobcats, again, Luther, capturing the 6-4A dual championship over the weekend. And, man, I tell you what, looking forward to state now. They go in as the #1 seed. Let's go back over the weekend, though, as they started the tournament with a first-round bye and just basically rolled through into the championship.
Well, they did. And, with 6 or 7 teams in the region, you get somebody's got to get a bye. Of course, Gilmer drew the bye this weekend, and, it's a short day. It's a long day, but it's a short match for them. Took on Pickens in round 2, 60-10. Dominating performance, not to take nothing away from Pickens.
Right.
By no means, but, just a real dominating performance. And they moved through there, had to sit and kind of wait, and took on Ridgeland at the end of the day, the last match of the day, and toughest match of the day for them.
Right.
And it was really close early on, some late big wins. Just really helped out and won 41-22.
Right.
To capture the region title. Of course, top 2 teams earned a state, so Ridgeland and Gilmer will go to state. On a low note, I guess, if you can say that, there was an injury for Gilmer, maybe a season ending. Haven't had updates from Coach Gobad, as you see on the screen there. Lucas Lopez suffered a dislocated shoulder in his match at 132-pound weight class against Pickens. He was not there when I was there covering the later matches, so I didn't get a chance to talk to him. But don't know how that's going to affect him. I mean,
right.
Gilmer's #1 saying finish the drill. And the guy stepped up and finished the drill in the later match. But, that's a big loss for him
right.
if he can't go this weekend at state.
Absolutely. Next man up mentality for sure. Yeah. If Lucas is unable to go, we certainly wish him a speedy recovery. We'll see how things go. Hopefully he'll be able to come back. Meanwhile, the Dragons finished 4th overall behind Heritage and Northwest Whitfield, who were 2 and 3. The Dragons are really on the cusp of being right there as well. A good team. They've got several young wrestlers that are getting better, it seems like, every match. So, when you look at the area as a whole, 6-4A particularly, some really strong performances there. The Bobcats, they're going to go for state championship number 18, I guess, this weekend, down in Macon at the duels. And it's always a great atmosphere, always a lot of fun. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. And then right after that, these guys turn around, including Pickens, and everyone will turn around and look at the traditional tournament. As we've said, wrestling is that one sport that you can win multiple state championships in one season in. And so the Bobcats will have the opportunity to hopefully do that. It starts this weekend with the state duels.
It does. And, for a quick note, while we're talking duels and traditional and things of that nature, for those who don't know much about wrestling, don't really follow it, duels is the team competition.
Right.
Where Gilmer will face
another school,
Cairo,
right? Kind of like head-to-head, yeah.
Their first match in Macon this weekend will be against Cairo.
Cairo, yep.
Yeah, I call it Cairo, you call it Cairo. Tomato, it's okay. But seriously, and it's where the team competes against another team. Traditional is individual against individual. Mm-hmm. So that breaks it down and puts a little focus just on the individual guys more so than team. I mean, if you have 6 individual state champions, it really does nothing for the team championship because you've won that this weekend. If
right,
exactly.
Yeah.
So just want to bring that out real quick. But yeah, it's going to be going after number 18. Long history. The team's ready. They're peaking. Of course, they've went their last 2 dual tournaments locally here, 5-0. So this makes their 3rd tournament in a row that they've pretty much cleaned house.
Right.
Taylor Brogdon had a big win for Gilmer this week. Oh, Lord. Names escape me. I'm kind of like you right now.
You and I are both suffering from that this morning.
We are.
Yeah.
So they did real well there. Prayers and thoughts for Lucas. Hopefully he can compete. That's a big part of their team and, their opportunity to win this weekend, of course. if he's not able to compete and Gilmer doesn't win, nobody's going to put it on him saying, well,
right.
we lost because he got hurt.
Right,
That's
absolutely.
not the mentality of the team.
Right, exactly.
So, they're going to fight hard, do everything they can. Like I said, Cairo's their first match coming in. If a win over Cairo is going to bring them to the winner of Baldwin County and Perry County on round 2 on Friday.
Yeah.
So,
should be a lot of fun, yeah. Let's talk about the 5 AAA tournament as well. Originally scheduled for Saturday, they moved it up to Friday with the impending, possibility of some weather coming in. So Fannin, Dawson, and Lumpkin all moving forward on that one. And again, a very competitive tournament. We talk a lot about wrestling in Fannin County and in Lumpkin County. And the Indians, it appears that they're headed to state this weekend as well out of Lumpkin. Most of the tournaments advance the top 2 teams. So, again, we do know that they finished either first or second, the Indians. We're still trying to get some details from that tournament. Still waiting on some of the final things to come in. But it looks like Lumpkin's indeed headed on there. 4A state brackets, as we mentioned, are set for this weekend. And Luther talked about those. So a lot of wrestling going on in our area. We'll follow Lumpkin as well. They've had a great year. Coach Henson, obviously, up at Fannin County. Those guys have had a good year. So we talk about wrestling sort of being one of those sports has really put this area on the map over the years.
It has. Wrestling, I can remember, 10 years ago being from Gainesville, you had a few wrestling programs.
Right.
But even in the Hall County area, wrestling has boomed. There's youth wrestling. There's USA youth wrestling. The high schools are working in that youth program to really focus. A lot of the coaches are there,
right?
Instructing them. Ladies wrestling, girls are in it now. There was 4 this weekend that I saw at the 4A region tournament over there with Gilmer.
Right.
Gilmer has a female wrestler. It's growing, beyond genders. I mean, it's wrestling has always been considered a male sport.
Mm-hmm.
Not any longer. And there's some girls. Fannin County has a young lady who is a beast.
Right.
She is really, really good and going to perform well as she matures and learns more about the sport.
Right.
Pickens County. I'm going to jump over to them, or Lumpkin County. I'm sorry. I'm going to jump to Lumpkin County. They're going in. First round match for them is going to be with Pierce County.
Yep.
Which has got a tough program. You get down in some of these other. It's 3A school, but you get these corn-fed boys, so to speak. It's going to be a tough match. I look forward to Lumpkin doing well. A win for Lumpkin is going to bring them in round 2 to face Sonoraville.
Right.
Which is another tough program across the board in all their sports. So it's going to be a good, exciting weekend in Macon. Myself and BKP are in discussion on whether or not I'm going and what days I will be going.
Right.
We spoke about it briefly the other day, so it's a strong possibility I will be there.
There you go. Yeah. So make sure you guys follow us on social media and get those updates. Because if Luther's able to get down there, and I know we'll make every effort to do that.
Yes.
We'll have those updates going.
Well, Macon's about a 5-hour drive, and with them wrestling first thing Thursday morning for Gilmer, and later in the day on Thursday for Lumpkin, and then coming right back Friday.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, my brackets don't give me times because wrestling.
5 hours? No, you must drive slow. I can get through quicker than that.
Well, you probably can, but see, if you get pulled over, you've got that celebrity.
Well, they don't know me. If
I get pulled over, they're like, "Oh God, we know you."
Right. Yeah.
And it's an extra ticket.
If they don't know me, it's not going to matter, and if they do know me, it's probably not going to matter either. Right. It doesn't matter where I go anyway. But I don't get that pass. But I've always said this: wrestling is that sport. High school wrestling is that sport where 103-pound freshman can be a state champion. What other sport, can a kid that small, compete for a state championship? I mean, basketball's going to be tough if you're that small. Mm-hmm. Football, obviously, a lot of times it's just science. You're going to get run over, but you can be 100 pounds soaking wet and be a freshman, and yet you can be a state champion. And we've seen that time and time again because wrestling allows you, because of the weight classes from top to bottom, from heavyweight to the lightweights, that you can be a state champ. So it's a very unique sport. The model fits well, especially for this area, because you said you got the corn-fed boys, but you got the younger guys that are transitioning out of middle school that tend to be some of those lighter weights as well. Right. And it's going to be exciting this weekend to see what the Bobcats can do. Obviously, a couple years ago, as we know, Sam Snyder transitioned out of the head coaching position. Josh Gobatapore came in, has been able to maintain, tradition of solid Gilmer championship caliber teams. So hopefully they'll be able to capture another one this weekend. Of course, we talked about Pickens wrestling well at the 6-4A, and Lumpkin, of course, moving on to state out of what we call Area 5 AAA. So again, it should be a lot of fun. We're going to talk a lot about that as things continue to roll on here with the program. We're going to go ahead and take a quick time out. When we come back, we're going to talk some basketball, Luther, because we got a lot of things to dive into there on the hardwood as we transition over there. We will do that, but just a reminder, again, you can always log on to our social media. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have any information you'd like to pass along with us, please feel free to do that. You can always email us at teamfynsports@fetchernews.com, and you can always call us if you're watching on Monday because you're watching the live show. Feel free to do that if you want to give a shout out to your team. 706-889-9700, the phone number right here on the program. We'll go ahead and take a timeout. Segment 3, quarter number 3. It's all about high school basketball. Stay with us. More on the program coming up.
The leaves aren't the only thing falling in Jasper. The prices are falling too at Days Chevrolet. Now during the model year end clearance, get huge savings up to $14,000 off Chevy Silverado Crew Cab and save up to $7,000 off new Chevy Cruze. The prices are falling on every 2018 Chevy in stock during the model year end clearance, going on now at Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where new Chevys always cost less.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
At Ingalls, we have a very special family. A family of farmers, ranchers, and dairymen. Clerks, butchers, and bakers. Deli workers, pharmacists, and florists. We work hard every day to bring you the very best. And we'll continue to wake up every morning and work as hard as you do. This is our town, and we built this community together. Ingalls, your neighbor for over 50 years.
At Pizza Hut, we're more than just $5 medium one-topping pizzas. Whoa, wait, medium pizzas? For $5? And all these sides, only $5? I'm speechless. The new $5 lineup, because no one out-pizzas the Hut.
And welcome back to this week's program. Again, the instant replay right here on FYNTV.com. Again, we are your home for the instant replay and for local sports. And this is North Georgia's only 1 hour of live online sports talk, weekly sports talk right here. Appreciate you guys being with us. And as always, we're highlighting and promoting student athletes in a positive way. That's what Fetcher News and Team FYN Sports is all about. Dave Garner alongside Luther Kinsey. Josh behind the glass with us as well, along with with the rest of our crew. Appreciate you guys being with us for this hour. We're about halfway through the program. And Luther, let's transition now onto the hardwood. We're talking high school basketball for segment 3. A lot of big games going on. We're going to focus on the Dragons and Dragonettes in a moment, who of course have a couple of big ball games coming up. And what a week they had. But before we do that, let's talk about a couple other things that have happened over the course of the last several days. I think you were following Lumpkin on Friday over at Cherokee Bluff over in Hall County.
I did. I drove over and got a chance to watch. I was telling you, I believe on the last show, I'd like to check out those Lady Indians.
Right.
Because they're on fire, and they continue to be.
Right.
They continue to be. That has to be the most three-point heavy team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
For a girls' team.
Right.
These girls fired off like crazy, the threes.
Right.
Might have had, I guess, probably under 10 shots from the inside, but they were just perimeter shooting. It was amazing to watch. Forgot the score already. I thought like 56-44, I believe, over Cherokee Bluff. Cherokee Bluff girls are good.
Right.
I know they're not in our area, but those girls are good. Well coached, fast.
Right.
A really fast team, and the Lady Indians did an excellent job in just controlling the game with the three-pointers.
Yeah.
When someone's on, consistently hitting those threes, you can't touch them.
Right. Yeah.
We're talking like 23 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
For one. And
very good perimeter shooting team.
I think
for sure.
I think there, if I remember my count right, and I apologize for not having it in my notes, I believe there was 15 threes in the game.
Wow.
By the Lady Indians.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was
my
consistent.
goodness. That's
it was consistent.
That's
if
crazy.
the ball came from beyond the arc, beyond the line there, it was in.
Right.
It was almost guaranteed.
Right, yeah.
So.
Now, the boys not as fortunate. Cherokee Bluff put up, 90-something?
95.
Wow. I mean,
90,
you talk about
46.
put up 95 points in a high school basketball game. I mean, that's saying something. And the Indian boys, who have had a great year, just not as fortunate on Friday at Cherokee Bluff. But the Lady Indians have been absolutely superb, and it's going to be fun to watch them down the stretch. When you look at the Dawsons and you look at some of the other teams in the area, and we talk about them. Man, this Lumpkin Lady Indian team has been one of those probably top 3 teams, if you had to pick, out of our area overall, who have definitely stood out.
They have, and they're going to continue to do so. Very well coached. They've got the subs coming off the bench that can pick up where they left off.
Right.
They're deep and consistent with those threes. That's just a dominating factor for me. Real quick note on the boys game. Benji Wood, high school coach from North Hall to Flowery Branch, is back at Cherokee Bluff now. Great young man, great coach.
Right.
And there's not a player on that team that is not at least 6'2".
Right,
6'3".
yeah.
They are all very tall, fast.
I remember Coach Wood
dominant.
having been there for all the different schools over the years. Yeah.
Right, so they are well coached.
Right.
They've got size. They've got speed. They're, again, three-point shooters for Cherokee Bluff. They're pretty consistent on their end, too. But they dominated this game. Lumpkin just couldn't get it going. It was third quarter, I think, the Bluffs put up 30 points in one quarter.
Yeah.
It was just domination. There were some off-court antics by some parents that I believe distracted a little bit from the game. I mean, Coach Jeff Steele for Lumpkin was doing everything he could to coach, and law enforcement had to get involved and basically tell them, this can be discussed at another time. Right now, these guys are playing a ball game, and these coaches have got to coach.
Right.
Don't know the situation. I was on the opposite side of the court, but I did see that, and I was told by law enforcement that he was just told, well, y'all can handle it later.
Right.
So, and there's no room for that.
No, it's unfortunate when things like that happen.
And,
I mean, yeah.
And like I said, I don't know if it was involving a player, if it was involving a coach. I don't know if the gentleman and the family that was, down there discussing was part of the team or, part of Cherokee Bluff. I don't know any of the details on that, and just didn't feel like I needed to get too involved in that.
Right, yeah.
But at the same time, off-court distractions may have taken away from, because Jeff Steele was at Johnson High School there in Gainesville for many years. Excellent coach, very, very well, very good program over the years there. At Lumpkin, he's done very well, but it's just, this wasn't their night.
Right, yeah.
They were beat by almost 50 points, and that's unusual for a Coach Steele team and a
Yeah,
Lincoln County team.
I was going to say, that's tough.
They'll regroup, they'll get their focus back, and they'll pick back up and start.
Game of the week last week in the local area may have happened last Tuesday in Ellijay. Gilmer taking on Southeast Whitfield, and the girls won pretty handily. Lady Cats have done great this year. They've been another one of those teams that have stood out, and a lot of folks expected them to do that. But the boys game, this Gilmer Bobcat boys team is a team that a lot of people may or may not have expected a lot from this year. They had the makings of possibly doing some good things, but this team has been superb. 14-5, I believe, after that win on Tuesday night. But how they got that win over Southeast Whitfield was remarkable, and then it came down to a buzzer beater. Now, there was a little bit of controversy, or at least from the Southeast side, whether or not they got the shot off on time, but it did look like on some replays, because there was some local TV there, that he got the ball maybe out of his hand right at, the 0.1 on the clock. As the clock hit zeros there, but he definitely got the ball off before the buzzer sounded. When you get down to the milliseconds, of it, the horn may not always sound necessarily right at zero. It may be a frame, what we call in TV, a frame or two later. So he definitely got the shot off before the buzzer, before everything lit up red. But it was just an amazing play. Trip Pierce throwing the ball in from the other end, and the freshman Cade Carter coming in for Kel Weaver, who had fouled out right before that. It was tied at 60, so the game looked like it was headed to overtime. Southeast had a good post player in Cole who was eating him up. Weaver goes out of the game. Overtime, I don't feel like would have favored the Bobcats at all in that game. So with 0.5 seconds left, a half a second left, Trip Pierce throws basically a full court inbound. Carter catches the ball, turns around just inside the arc, turns around and hits a little baseline floater there. With 0.5 seconds left, it's really you're pretty much catch and shoot. You're not even catching the ball and lining up. You're catching the ball up here and throwing it up. So it was a great pass by Pierce to put the ball in a position for Carter to already have it above his head, then just threw it up. Just an amazing shot that went in, and the Bobcats won 62-60, claiming the win.
Well, I tell you, Jason Newman, one of our new reporters that's just came on board, was there, and it says it all in this story.
Yeah.
You had everyone expecting overtime, and then for that to happen, he said people were screaming, jumping, shouting, crowding the court, and just it's an amazing win for Coach Heiss and his guys, and I'm sure Carter got mugged on the floor. I'm telling you, I hope he didn't get any injuries from being piled up.
Right, I was going to say,
I heard it was pretty exciting.
Well, I was there. I happened to be there, and I told him after the game, he's a freshman. I said, you'll never forget that for the rest of your life. You'll remember hitting that game-winning shot your freshman year, no matter what happens the rest of the way.
Most definitely.
Awesome.
It'll take a lot to outdo that when
it
grows.
I was going to say, there is some video floating around online if you guys haven't seen it yet. And like Luther said, we had folks there as well from Team FYN Sports, so go ahead and check it out. Let's transition now. Let's talk about our team of the week, if you will. One thing we're going to try to do right here in the program is focus on a particular team or school each week throughout the rest of the high school basketball season as we approach the region tournaments and move our way through the region schedule. This week, let's talk a little bit about the Dragons and Dragonettes, the focus on Pickens this week. Let's start with the girls. This past week, the Nets had a couple of big wins. They took down Heritage and Ridgeland, and that Heritage win was huge last Tuesday night because Heritage was one of the top teams in the region, and the Dragonettes played well and then followed that up with a Friday win on the road at Ridgeland. The overtime win over the Lady Generals on Tuesday night was the first region loss for Heritage on the season, so the Dragonettes handing them the loss there. And then on Friday night, things went a little bit easier for the Dragonettes, who coasted to an 81-33 win over Ridgeland, and just some dominating performances. Mackenzie Weaver, 29 points. 8 rebounds, 10 steals. I know that Tori Williams had 24 points. I think she had 5 threes in the game on Tuesday night against Heritage. Just what a week for the Dragonettes, but this is a team that's kind of starting to catch their rhythm a little bit after they've been up and down a little bit this year. Admittedly, a little bit slow at times, but they're starting to pick it up right when they need to.
Yeah, they are. And as we talked last week, talking about Gilmer wrestling and peaking at the right time.
Right.
the Lady Nets here from Pickens are peaking at the right time for them.
Right. Yeah.
As you come in, this is your heavy region schedule for the most part coming into the tournament. You know, you've got to be on fire, and these ladies are. They're consistently, like I said, Weaver's hitting 20-plus points pretty much every game.
Right.
And just as you said about Cherokee Bluff boys putting up 95 points, for a girls team to put up 81.
81? That's
81.
impressive. It doesn't matter who you're playing.
It doesn't matter. You're
right.
It's anytime a girls team in high school basketball can put up over 60 is probably the average, the highest I've seen in several years. But 81 points is an amazing performance, and they're killing it. I mean, you've got all the way down through the list of the roster.
Yeah.
The girls are getting in, and they're contributing and putting up points.
Right.
Sarah Morris had 7 points the other night in the big win over Ridgeland.
Right.
Just an amazing job.
Yeah.
They're coming in, they're filling that spot of that starter, and they're picking up where they left off to put points on the board.
And I think the Dragonettes, I think their biggest issue is that, not necessarily having that true post player, that inside presence, although, Hattie Baker's done a great job. You've got, Reagan Harwood and different folks coming off the bench as well. They're holding their own underneath, having to play inside like that and doing pretty well. Obviously, depending on who they play, poses the challenges sometimes that they may or may not be able to match up well against. But as long as they've got the perimeter game going, they can hang with anyone as long as the shots are falling. And I know that's kind of any game, any team, any night with basketball. But this is a Dragonette team that is playing better as the season goes on. And that's what you want to see.
It is. It is. And they're going to have a good run for the rest of the season, hopefully. And then they're going to win a region tournament. And love to see them do well and come out for a state appearance for that.
Let's talk about the boys. One team that has struggled immensely since the beginning of the season, although it has been a transition year, has been the Pickens Dragon boys. However, lately, this is a team that is kind of starting to find that rhythm under first-year head coach Mike Duffy. Now, Duffy, obviously a longtime head coach over at Dalton and so forth, has been in the game a long time. He's not a first-year head coach. He's a first-year head coach at Pickens, and this team is finally starting to get it. But I'll tell you, the return of Hunter Herman has completely changed the dynamic of this team. As we saw last week, the Dragons ended a 12-game losing streak as they knocked off Heritage 75-65, and Heritage not a bad team. The Dragons had 4 players in double-digit scoring. Seth Bishop, who, and we're going to talk about this in a second, 1,000-point scorer, led the team with 25 points. Tucker Lau off the bench has been impressive. In fact, he started actually most recently, started the season off the bench, has worked his way into some starts, 19 points. Zach Goss has been very consistent with 15, and that guy we were talking about, Hunter Herman, with 13. Herman's still getting into basketball shape, transitioning from an injury off the football field, gets the cast off, comes back, I think, last week, and was just unbelievable, not just scoring, but rebounding, passing, dishing the ball around. Defensively, it's almost like the dynamic of this team changed as soon as he came back. And even though, they beat Ridgeland, Seth Bishop, of course, had a big game there, 23 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, 3 steals. Now, they would fall to Forsyth Central on Saturday in non-region play. But how about this Dragon boys team over the last week? A team that had, one win, I guess, coming into the week? Being able to win a couple of region ball games there. And they're a team that, because of the talent level they have, they're a team that when you get into the tournament, even with presumably a losing record, because it'd be hard at this point with the amount of games they have left to, they're probably going to enter the tournament, what have you, or, losing record, what have you. But they're a team that could pull off an upset or two, if they're able to get to that point in the region tournament.
Right. Well, Herman coming back is a big move for him. I mean, that's just, you can't help but go forward when you bring him into your lineup. Seth Bishop, as you said, we'll talk about him a little bit more in a few moments. I mean, he's killing it.
Yeah.
He is absolutely hitting just about every shot he takes right now. He's a force on defense as well, as you can see with the rebounds and steals. And then you get Zach Goss. Mm-hmm. Zach Goss is a human highlight reel if he gets loose.
Right, yeah.
And I don't know what's holding him back. Mm-hmm. But to me, Zach should be scoring more points. And I don't know what it is, because he's your force on the inside. He's not a big guy.
Right.
But he's super tall. And one block in the game the other night. You know, I mean, I don't know his defense. If they can get his defense to step up just a little and get more blocks and more steals out of him from the inside, I don't believe nobody can stop it. The Dragons.
Yeah,
I mean, they're coming.
They've got the talent. I mean, they've got some talent on that team, and it'll be interesting to see what they do. Seth Bishop, as we mentioned, adding his name to the 1,000-point club, was honored recently for his accomplishment. That makes 2 active Pickens High School players part of the 1,000-point club. Of course, the other being Mackenzie Weaver, who, of course, did that a couple of weeks ago on the girls' side, scoring her 1,000th point earlier this season and doing it as a junior. She's still got another year. But you see right there, Seth Bishop. He is able to throw one down. He's done it several times this year. He's got ups. Zach Goss has as well. There's a couple guys on that team that can throw them down, but Bishop, congratulations to Seth. What a career he's had at Pickens High School, and both of these teams right here, scary. I wouldn't want to play them. I know they play Gilmer, I believe, next Tuesday at Gilmer in a rematch from early in the season. That'll be the 3rd time those two have played this year, with Gilmer basically winning those matchups. So I know Pickens is going to go into those matchups at Gilmer with a little bit of payback on their mind. That'll, of course, take place next week. A couple golf ball games before then. We're the ones looking ahead. I know they're not. But what a season it's been. And maybe we'll see some things out of this Pickens team the rest of the way.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, if I was Gilmer, I would be focusing hard on Pickens. Not early, of course, but I would be focused hard on them. They are going to come in. Gilmer's 2-0 over Pickens.
Right.
We dominate. And not saying this is what they're saying, but, the normal consensus is, man, we beat them twice, we're good.
Right, yeah.
But this is a different Pickens team.
Yeah.
Both boys and girls.
It's hard to beat a team 3 times, and it is a different – the dynamic, especially on the boys' side, is different. You're right,
They're coming into their own right now under Coach Duffy, and having Herman back, it's going to be a different ball game. Yeah. I believe I would be focusing, once the time comes for me to start preparing for them, I would be focusing extra hard on perimeter shooting and inside out of that young man we just showed right there in Seth Bishop. And Zach Goss, they're going to dominate the insides if you do not play them tough.
Right, absolutely.
And, you can walk away with a loss to Pickens on that night.
But I also have faith, though, in Coach Jordan Heiss that he'll have his guys ready, though, too, especially Kel Weaver, and talk about inside presence. I mean, he had a double-double, possibly a triple-double the other night with his effort there, so it should be a lot of fun.
Fell just short of the triple-double.
Did he? Okay. I was wondering. We didn't have stats on the rebounds and some of the other things, or some of the other things, but so. Well, good stuff there. Good stuff, no doubt. Looking forward to it. High school basketball again in our local area. Next week we'll have a couple more teams to talk about, so keep it right here on the Instant Replay. We're going to go ahead and take our final timeout. When we return, our 4th quarter segment, we're going to switch it up and go regional for you as we talk about the NFL playoffs and a baseball teaser for you. We'll dive back into some high school stuff to end the show. Stay with us. The Instant Replay rolls on in a moment.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and LJ, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN10 for your special deal today at Circuit World.
We're more than just $5 medium one-topping pizzas, stuffed garlic knots, breadsticks, bone-out wings, pasta, and new Cinnabon mini rolls. We're the $5 lineup with the best sides for your pizza.
$5 each.
Choose 2 or more, $5 each. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Welcome back here to the program. Fourth quarter segment of this week's Instant Replay. Dave Garner alongside Luther Kinsey, Josh behind the glass. We had a little active discussion there during the break about baseball free agency, the Bryce Harper and Machado, things and where we think they're going to land. And it'll be interesting. It looks like we were talking about the Phillies, of course, probably being the destination for Harper more than likely. Just hoping the Braves will get in the mix. We both kind of, and I know I'm not a big Bryce Harper personally, as him as a person. I think he has kind of the reputation of being kind of that jerk on and off the field and so forth. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. Meanwhile, NFL playoffs over the weekend. The Saints, of course, beating the Eagles on Sunday night. Rams over the Cowboys on Saturday. So the NFC Championship game, Rams traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. If you're a Falcons fan like I am, you hate that they're even in it. Talking about the Saints, I was hoping the Eagles, and I'm, of course, certainly not an Eagles fan, but I was hoping maybe they'd be able to hold that early lead, and then they just kind of didn't do anything else after the first quarter.
Right. The Eagles are the lesser of two evils.
Right, yeah, exactly,
You're either an Aints fan,
right,
or you hate the Aints or you hate the Eagles. You just hate them both and be a Falcons fan.
Right,
and I'm not a fan of either one of those either.
Right, yeah.
But I'm telling you, I'm pulling for the Rams hard and heavy.
Me too, yeah.
Todd Gurley.
Yeah, Georgia product.
Georgia product, going to be playing for the Rams and had a decent weekend this past one. So hopefully look forward to him really setting up something against that Saints defense.
If you're a Falcon fan, and especially with the Super Bowl being in Atlanta, you're cheering for a Chiefs-Rams Super Bowl.
Yes.
I have a feeling, and I hate to say this, it's going to be a Saints-Patriots Super Bowl, which is like the worst. Who do you even root for in that thing, at that point? But
the concession stand guys that are going around selling the food.
Right, exactly. Exactly. I mean, the Patriots, of course, beating the Chargers, no contest there. Chiefs, of course, beating the Colts on Saturday in the first of the AFC divisional games over the weekend. So, again, the winners of Sunday's division championships packing their bags, heading to Atlanta for the Super Bowl, and it should be a lot of fun. February 3rd at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Again, NFL playoffs alive and well. I know we don't like to spend a lot of time on the NFL. I know BKP despises the NFL, and so we're not going to spend a lot of time on that.
I do want to add one note.
Go for it. Go for it.
To make your comment about Saints and Patriots in the Super Bowl,
yeah,
we may have a chance. Patriots are coming in as the underdog in this week's game.
Right.
So
right,
hopefully,
yeah.
I mean,
I'm rooting for me personally. I'm rooting for the Chiefs because I like the Chiefs anyway. And my son's a big, he loves Travis Kelce. He's a big Chiefs fan. So
Mahomes is a phenomenal.
Yeah, I think he's probably a lock for MVP at this point. However, the MVP has not won the Super Bowl in quite some time. So they usually it's a team that gets there. If the Chiefs get there, I think he's definitely a lock for it. We'll see what happens. Drew Brees being another guy that's right up there as well in the MVP voting, so we'll see what happens there. Should be a lot of fun. Baseball teaser. We're talking about free agency at the major league level. High school baseball, just kind of to plant the seed, to put the thought in the back of your mind. High school baseball season is climbing closer and closer. At the end of our high school wrestling and basketball seasons, we will transition into baseball and all of our spring sports. Just a little over a month away. GHSA baseball kicks off for some folks as early as the first week of February. I think Gilmer is the 11th. Some teams around the 13th or so, middle of the month. So by the middle of next month, we will be hot and heavy. We'll move from the hot stove into the actual first pitch of the high school baseball season. And just to let you know, GHSA softball for the girls obviously is a fall sport, but in just about every other state, particularly in Tennessee, it's in the spring. And so with that, and in North Carolina, so teams like Copper Basin and Murphy in our viewing area, Murphy softball will be played in the spring, so they will get their first game going right around the 1st of March. In fact, I believe it might be March 1st when they get going. So for Murphy, we'll have baseball and softball going on. And so it should be a lot of fun. Of course, spring is tennis, golf, track, you name it, soccer, and baseball, of course. And, of course, we talked about some softball going on as well outside Georgia state line. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yes. It's always an interesting season because, at least with football, you go from hot to cold with August to, November or what have you. So you kind of experience the seasons a little bit. But it doesn't get too awful cold. I mean, you might have that one really chilly game, or two. Basketball's indoors, takes the elements out of it, but the spring is always an interesting season because you have all these weather things going on, and by the end of the spring season, the weather starts to warm up when it's time for it to end as you get into May. Right. The grass finally gets green when the season's over with. So, you have weather cancellations, makeups. It always gets to be. Spring is probably the most interesting of all the high school seasons.
It is. Of course, in Georgia, Georgia is the only place you can have 4 seasons in one day.
Right, that's true.
So it differs. I can remember a baseball game at Gilmer last year. There was a television crew there, and one of the announcers there was like, "Sure feels cold." And I'm back there. It's 27. He's like, "Yeah, they're not 27."
Yeah. Once the sun went down, it was 60 degrees at first pitch, and then it ended up 27 by the end of the 9 there.
27 degrees, the wind blowing. Hope BKP's not listening, even though I can do my job from the warm press box. I stayed in the press box.
Right.
I cannot lie.
That's funny. Well, that's what you got. I said 9 innings. High school knows 7, but baseball. I mean, come on. Some of the games we've covered over the years have went 9 innings or more. It's just especially depending on who's playing. Gilmer and Pickens, I know, have certainly had some that have gone 9. But yeah, it's an interesting season. We hope that you guys will keep it right here for us. Obviously, that's off in the distance. We still have a lot to get through before we get to that point. But just kind of keep that in mind that some of our spring sports are right around the corner. Real quick, we're about out of time. High school basketball again this week. A lot of games going on next week right here on the program. We will be talking about high school basketball really hot and heavy, and of course we'll have a complete recap of what goes down this weekend down in Macon with the Estate Duels, a wrestling tournament, the Gilmer Bobcats with 17 state titles, trying to make it number 18 after this weekend. And then of course we'll transition into some traditional team talk as well, because I think there's a lot of teams in our area that are going to have some guys standing on the podium at the end of this month, if you will, and on into February as we officially wrap up the high school wrestling season. And then, of course, basketball, plenty of things going on there. We're also going to talk about some regional stuff, and we're going to work on Trevor Lawrence, I guess, right? I mean, it could possibly be, we've got some ends there with, of course, Michael Bale, longtime, of course, Pickens resident, who's now he's the quarterbacks coach over at Cartersville High School. He coached Trevor at Cartersville. So maybe we can get word through Michael maybe, and if not, maybe we'll get Michael on the show as well to talk about just the progression of Trevor Lawrence being a local guy and what he's he's meant to college football, especially now at Clemson, having won a national championship. But a lot of things going on in our area. It's an exciting time to be here in North Georgia.
It is. It is. One of my first thoughts the other night after Clemson, and in closing for me, after Clemson's win, first thing that came to mind is two basically local quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson from Gainesville.
Right.
National championship at Clemson. Trevor Lawrence, Cartersville. National championship at Clemson. And, I officiated Deshaun Watson for several years over at Gainesville High School, and of course met Trevor early on through some adventures I had with some kind of semi-pro alumni football as the head of officials there, and just two great young men that have stayed true to themselves, true to their beliefs, choose Clemson, number one for their program.
Right.
Number two, or actually probably number two for their program, number one for the faith of Dabo Sweeney and how he treats every athlete as one of his own sons, and just his beliefs there moving forward. And I just can't help but just be proud to say that I'm from this area.
Right. Absolutely.
Right now.
Very talent rich. Yeah.
Clemson's backup quarterback that came in late in the game there is from Grayson High School. So,
right.
So
another Georgia product.
Another Georgia product. So I'm proud to be a Georgian, I guess you'd say. I'm super proud of these guys, and Clemson, congratulations, Trevor Lawrence. We're gonna get you right here. I need you right here, Trevor.
Who would have thought little old Clemson? That's what Dabo said after that. Little old Clemson. I mean, nobody thought we deserved to be here. I'm like, dude, you're 15-0. Everybody thought you. He's still a coach. At the end of the day, I love his faith. I love his personality, but he's still a coach.
One more little teaser.
Yeah.
Clemson has started a fast pitch softball program for the first time in school history, so they will be coming in as well.
Oh, okay.
They'll be coming up, starting with the college softball season. So, hopefully we'll have some local athletes around here that are rumored to have chosen Clemson and will be choosing Clemson, so we'll be able to follow some of them as well.
Well, there we go. Sounds good. All kinds of things working, more opportunities here for our local student athletes. That's going to wrap things up for the program this week. We hope you've enjoyed listening to us ramble on here a little bit today. We've had a lot of fun. We hope you guys have too. We will see you next week right here on the program as we continue on with high school sports, regional, national, whatever's in the headlines. You can count on it happening right here. And if it happens in North Georgia, we're all over it. We'll see you next time right here. Thanks for joining us.